Why is there a fire happening right now?
There are multiple fires that are taking place.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Yeah.
You're in the news though. You're supposed to know.
Well, I don't know how it started. We don't know how it started. There, you know,
I think
winds.
it's all the gay people in LA.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
We got the
unacceptable. Gina, the
Where are you from, sir?
you're,
We're from Utah.
The tragedy of this situation does not absolve us from talking about why it happened. And the local Democrats will beat the drum to try to force people to stop talking about it and who's actually at fault, hiding behind tragedy. But I don't care how they feel, because their policies just burned down a bunch of people's homes and businesses. You will never solve a problem unless you admit that you have one. So I'm about to bludgeon Los Angeles officials into changing their policies. First, how did these fires start? I can't say for sure about this specific fire yet, but I can make a really educated guess. There isn't exactly a bunch of lightning in LA right now, so you can rule that out, pretty much natural causes. But from 2020 to 2023, the number of fires in homeless encampments have doubled. Last year alone, reporting 13,909. In 2018, by the way, there were only 7 homeless encampment fires. Keep in mind, in the same time frame, California spent $24 billion with a B dollars on the homeless problem, as they called it. By the way, most of that money is completely unaccounted for at this present time. In fact, according to CBS News, in 2021, homeless encampment fires accounted for 80% of fire breakouts in the LA area. So if you stack this on the fact that California won't even trim a branch because all the hippies freak out about touching anything in the environment, this is what you get. Look, the liberal argument out there is that we should not interfere with Mother Nature at all. And that is why they don't do any forest management. Well, if just one of these people had read to page 2 in any book about this type of stuff, about, I don't know, nature, they would also know that fire is also part of the same ecosystem that Mother Nature uses. And it's pretty obvious that if we as people, or in California, don't clean up nature, she's going to clean it up for us. Trump has been saying that Newsom needs to do this since 2019, but no, he didn't do this. And now this is happening. This is why elections matter, folks. So combine all that with the fact, and this happens every year, the Santa Ana winds. They're blowing extra hard, almost 100 miles per hour this year. So you have a perfect storm for wildfires. But to absolve themselves of any wrongdoing or incompetence or any image of that, what do California officials rush to blame? Climate change. Where Axios writes, context. Climate change is intensifying hydroclimate extremes, both wet and dry, including weather whiplash events where California seesaws between the two. It is so wild that these people call something climate change and then go on to describe weather. The two are totally different. First, to ping this on climate change is just really dumb because, one, these are not the highest Santa Ana winds on record. The highest recorded were in December of 2011, with gusts as high as 167 miles per hour, like 50% higher. And two, this is not even the driest winter on record for LA. In fact, they began records in the late 1800s, and in 1897 to 1899 was the driest until 2014 that basically tied for the least rainfall in Southern California. And also, newsflash, Southern California is a desert. It always has been. Which brings me to water. Because it's a desert, it requires competent management to ensure there's enough of it. And right now, LA doesn't have either of those two things, water or competent management. In fact, they don't have any manager at all. The mayor of LA is in Africa currently, making her way back after media outrage, but rightfully so. Why is she in Africa? Well, we talked about this water management of LA about 8 months ago. We called it here. How LA imports their water from hundreds of miles away. Their irresponsible allocation is a big problem. People upstream in Colorado, like 500, 800, 900 miles upstream, were forced to restrict their water consumption to allow as much water as possible to flow down the river to the Colorado River Aqueduct. And why is that so important? Because that Colorado Aqueduct pumps all the water to the epicenter of the climate change narrative, San Francisco and Los Angeles. Where do you have left-wing lunatics screaming about, like, cow farts and rivers drying up while they take private jets and water 6-acre lawns at their $50 million mansions? It couldn't possibly be the fact that the population of Los Angeles, which, by the way, is effectively in a desert, has doubled in the last 60 years. That's why your fire hydrants are dry, not climate change. The other issue they are facing is this.
We're doing the very best we can, but no, we don't have enough fire personnel in LA County between all of the departments to handle this. Thank you.
Oh, you don't have enough people. And who here would like to know why? Because, first, the mayor of LA, Karen. Of course her name is Karen. Karen Bass cut the LA Fire Department budget by almost $18 million. And instead of investing the money they did have left to, train people and recruit other people, they spent it on DEI.
Our department is launching its first ever Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Bureau. It is dedicated to ensuring a fair and equal workplace environment.
Because flames care about the color of someone's skin who's putting them out, right? These people are so stupid. All right. Second, they fired a bunch of LA firefighters for not getting vaccinated. I hope this is some sort of a wake-up call here. Probably not, but it's California. But you know what is even crazy? This gets worse. As Newsom activates the National Guard to bring in supplies and equipment, you know what LA did with their extra equipment? In 2022, they donated it to Ukraine. I wonder if they're going to kick some of that back and aid for us now. No? You just can't make this stuff up. There are so many failures here. It's biblical. It gets even worse because California and the stupid laws that they pass over the last year, tons of homeowners have actually lost their fire insurance.
They've lived in this house for 75 years, and they've had the same insurance, and these insurance people decided to cancel their fire. And we're going through this, and it just happened, and they have no fire insurance.
Not the insurance company, people. It's not them. You know why they got dropped? One, because the risk of fire was so high because of literally all the things I just mentioned. But two, because California's regulatory framework intended to safeguard consumers has inadvertently prompted several insurance companies to pull out of the market. That's not me saying it. So, California, how many good people have to lose everything because you and your people voted for others that put in ridiculous policies that have all culminated in the same horrific result? You see why elections matter?
I get we start making videos about homeowners insurance in Florida and in California. We've been making these homeowners insurance videos for the last few years, okay? Many of you guys have seen it. I just made one 4 months ago about the California homeowners insurance and what's going to be taking place, Rob.
Fair plan.
Yeah, it's called the California Insurance Time Bomb that I did from 4 months ago. If you just go type in California Insurance Time Bomb, you'll see it that came up. And just put Bet David. Just put Bet David, you'll see it come up. Right there. Zoom in a little bit, Rob. That's how long ago? 4 months ago. Okay, and it explains what's about to happen with homeowners insurance in the state of California. So watch this. My pastor, who married my wife and I, he runs a church, 20,000 members. You met him. We went to Universal Studios with him. Dudley. Love him. Everybody who knows him loves him, right? I'm checking on him and his family to make sure everything is right. And he says, for 38 years, he's been paying homeowners insurance. Always on time. This is a responsible man, solid guy, family guy, great guy. One of the top 5 men that has influenced my life directly, okay? And he says, just last week, this is before the fires, I got a notice last week that they are dropping my coverage, okay? That they're dropping my coverage last week. Now, I'm not going to give the insurance companies names. All I'm telling you is, there's a lot of names, State Farm, Farmers, Liberty. There's a bunch of them that you can go through that are out there that are dropping it. Allstate, it's all over the place, right? That this is a real story that's going on. Okay. He says, what are you going to do when all of these rich people in the Palisades, in Malibu, in Pasadena's got a lot of rich communities. Pasadena's got $20, $30 million homes.
Big time.
So what are you going to do when these guys, their houses burned down? what is a rich person going to do? You know what? Go expedite the process of getting a permit. Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. He says it's going to take, he says the reason why Bill Maher finally flipped in California is because of a damn, solar he wanted to put on his house that it took so long. It's like, why it says we created a 1,000-day countdown.
Yes.
To see how long it's going to take for the solar to go on. So finally, when he's talking to the other actress, what's the actress that was on just
Jane Fonda.
5 weeks ago? Jane Fonda. You're not seeing the problem with all these permits?
No.
So watch what happens. One of the reasons why we left Oakland Park is we're trying to get a damn permit for a fence. 2 years, 2.5 years for one permit. And then go and amplify that with all of these builders. How many builders do you have in California? So now somebody says, hey, I want my permit. And he's saying, this person that's a lesbian working there, giving permits, all this stuff, is going to sit there and use her power to make it harder for you to get the permit. Now you're going to realize why deregulation is the way to go. Liberals are going to realize the power of deregulation because regulations are slowing so much shit down. And he's absolutely right. Because what now takes place is I rebuild the house. Hey, I'm willing to pay $5 million to rebuild my house. Great. Let's go wait for a permit. No, I need you to start building now. It's not how this works. We need a permit. So the line for permits.
Oh my God.
Imagine the line for permits.
Forget it.
What that's going to look. So then imagine what permits are going to be put on pause. So there's so many other permits right now that are pending. So imagine you want a permit right now. The city now has to decide which permit is more important. Imagine the fights that are going to take place in cities of wanting permits. He says that's when you realize it's going to take 3 years until they put the first brick. Where they first come and break and start building your house 3 years after you're trying to get a permit. He says that's when people are going to realize, liberals are going to realize, what the F are we voting for? And he's 100% right. By the way, you know when it flips? When people who gave you money that are on your side, liberals, are going to say, hey, Newsom, it's time.
Yep. You're
out. Step the F aside. This is ridiculous what's going on right now. I think that's where it's going to go, where California is going to be like, This is a little bit too much. And by the way, that could take a year or 2 or 3 years, but that day is coming. In the meantime, guess what that doesn't fix? You know what it doesn't fix? Let's just say you get somebody else that's going to be on the red, okay? That's going to have better policies. That's going to say deregulation. That's going to say speed things up. How many people can afford to wait 3, 4, 5 years?
Not a lot.
How many people can afford to pay the homeowners insurance? Do you know why so many people are moving to Nevada? They're moving to Nevada because of this mess. Mark Wahlberg goes straight to Nevada. So many people are out. They're like, I'm out of here. Yes, Texas has grown because of people from California. And it's not just the Rogans and the Musk. We went to Texas. A lot of people are going to Texas. Florida, you're going to see things happening in the state of California. Hasn't happened before. But even to get there, they're still going to be paying the next 12, 24, 36 months, all because of this guy's bad policies. Tom.
And I'll put some stats behind it. So I'm not going to mention everything that we talked about, Dudley. I'm not talking about any companies that he mentioned. I'm just looking at facts. Facts. State Farm and Allstate stopped selling insurance because of the California Fair Plan and Governor Newsom. Fact. State Farm announced last year they would non-renew 30,000 policies in what they called, ready for this? Wildfire risk areas. And you're thinking middle of nowhere, Big Bear, up in the forest. Nope. Guess what? They non-renewed. Here's the stat, Pat. State Farm non-renewed 69% of the policies it had in Pacific Palisades. Data point this morning confirmed. State Farm said last year, we're non-renewing 69% of the homes we insure currently today in Palisades. Why? Long-term brush risk and poor management of the common area.
You can't blame them.
No, I'm not blaming them.
I know you're not, but what I'm saying is, you cannot blame. The business has to make profits. And when the regulators make their life a living hell and make them look bad, what do you want us to do? Take a loss every year?
Well, correct. Now I'm going to the punchline. Why did they do that? Because the county of LA and the city of LA had suspended brush removal in Palisades. This comes down to the county.
Are you joking?
Yeah, you can find it. You can find it was suspended here. Casual brush removal suspended here. Limited brush removal suspended here. This is all going to come out because Zach Levi and other people.
That's when Trump said he got to clean the floor, and the floor.
That's exactly right. And by the way, to his credit, what do you say? You said Get smarter people in the room with you.
Yeah.
Who did he praise? The people in Finland have had policies, and they've been doing this for a while.
Right.
So he's not saying, hey, I'll fix it. He's saying, this problem has been solved.
There's another case study. We have it. They did it. Why don't we learn from them and fix it?
That's exactly right. And so I'm not down on the insurance companies. I'm saying the insurance companies are at the bottom of the waterfall, and at the top of the waterfall is the state with their policies and budget cuts on fire and brush suppression and all the things that they've done, despite the level of taxes they're collecting.
What I want to see, what I usually look at in situations like this is I look at the patterns of who got wiped out and how. And, one of the first questions, I'll be honest, that I'm going to look at when I look at some of the communities involved is how many of the homeowners were on the P. Diddy list?
Yeah, I think that's on everyone's mind, to be honest. Let's be honest, everybody, it's on everybody's mind right now. We've got a new administration.
Well, it's funny. I have a pedophilia story to tell that I'd like to tell. I have a wonderful subscriber, who's been a subscriber for many years, Polly, and for the first time in his life, he read the Franklin cover-up last week. And I spoke to him last weekend, and he said, I keep hearing you. He said, you get frustrated because people don't understand the importance of financial transaction freedom to their lives. And I hear you keep telling people who say, well, I don't have many assets, and if they take my assets, I don't care. And I hear you telling people, wait a minute, they can take your children. They can mandate health treatments to your children, and they can literally take your treatment. And he said, you need to understand that even though I've been a subscriber for 10 years, I didn't understand what you were saying. And he said, I don't think most people understand what you're saying. But I read the Franklin cover-up, which is one of the best, highly documented cases of a pedophilia ring in America. And he said, now I understand what you mean. Now I understand what you mean when you say they'll take your children, and what that really means, and why financial transaction freedom is so very important to me and to you, because we cannot allow that to happen. So he said, this is the first time that it really got to be personal. It really touched me in an intimate and visceral way. And, I've seen dreadful things done in the interest of covering up the pedophilia rings. And this is likely to include, whenever you do an operation this big, you stack functions. So there's a lot of stacking functions going on, but it wouldn't surprise me if pedophilia is one of those functions that's getting stacked here.
Well, I just pray the new administration address this. I mean, again, I ask the question, where are the 400,000 missing children in this country? That has to be addressed. It's heavy on everyone's heart, and no one wants to talk about it because we don't go there. That's not what we do. But I'm going to say that over and over again. Where are they?
Right. So one thing I do want to warn again, when things like this happen, one of the responses is, oh, the solution is. And then, of course, it's a solution that just helps the guys who did it, right? So the solution is not to put California under federal rule. We don't need to tear up the Constitution just because, somebody decided to, burn down part of California. So don't let them burn down the Constitution as a result of this. Don't fall for don't fall for climate change, and don't fall for, burning up the Constitution. California is perfectly competent to manage itself under the Constitution.
And also, but be careful as well with this climate change narrative. There is such a thing as weather modification, as we know, as we're being educated on. So they're trying to confuse us with the climate change and the weather modification. We are modifying weather to a dangerous degree. We are playing God, which is causing catastrophic weather situations. And so their climate change of cow farts is not what we're talking about. That I don't buy, but there is something sinister, man-made, going on in the skies for sure.
Well, if you look at how these fires started, it's very hard to conceive that it wasn't, that the original fires weren't triggered from high, either from the sky or from the suborbital platform. This was likely induced. Now, the drought was also induced, and the poor management setup was induced. Was that coordinating? I don't know. They haven't had rain there for a long time, and it's a real tinderbox. So, you could have a combination of natural and man-made, but it's hard to believe if you look at the patterns I've seen so far that it wasn't, that this isn't arson.